as we begin the first verse of the 20th chapter. And the text reads like this: When the uproar had ended, Paul sent for the disciples, and after encouraging them, said goodbye and set out for Macedonia. He traveled through that area, speaking many words of encouragement to the people, and finally arrived in Greece, where he stayed 3 months. Because some Jews had plotted against him as he was about to sail for Syria, he decided to go back through Macedonia. He was accompanied by Sopater, son of Pyrrhus, from Berea, Aristarchus and Secundus from Thessalonica, Gaius from Derbe, Timothy also, Tychicus and Trophimus from the province of Asia. These men went on ahead and waited for us at Troas, but we sailed from Philippi after the festival of unleavened bread, and 5 days later joined the others at Troas, where we stayed 7 days. When the uproar had ended, I encourage you all to revisit the podcast from last week, where we spoke of the riot, the uproar, brought about because Demetrius, the silversmith, had accused Paul of destroying their trade and defaming their god Artemis, Diana for you Roman theology or Roman mythology. What did he do? What did Paul do? For the 2 to 3 years that he was in Ephesus, he preached, taught a message whose essence was gods made by hands are no gods at all. Gods made by hands are no gods at all. So when the ruckus had abated, Paul sent for those he had been pouring into in Ephesus. You'll read that if you read ahead. I think it's about the 25th verse. He doesn't come back through Ephesus, but he sends for them and he asks them to come, and he's pouring into them. He's retracing his steps through Greece, modern day Greece, because it was time for a transition. It was time for a transition. It's the 25th verse. We'll deal with that next week. And the text actually says he knew he would never see them again. He knew he'd never see them again. That's in the 25th verse. He had shared time and space, meals, time together for 2 to 3 years, but it was coming to an end. You do know that everything comes to an end, right? This side of eternity, everything comes to an end. Our season will end. The season could be with our kids. It ends. They're no longer kids. They're more peers. That season ends on our jobs. The season ends in our community. We move from one city to another. And in the ministry God has given us, the season ends. It doesn't go on forever. What are you saying, Pastor Meeks? What I'm saying is what I've shared before. We're stewards. We're not owners. We're stewards. We're not owners. Our life is not ours. It's His. I know. Well, last time I checked, this is my life. I understand you're a steward of the time that God has given you, but if you profess and claim, it's a big if, that you're His, if you profess and claim that it's in Him you live, it's in Him you move, it's in Him you have your being, then it's his life, not our life. What if you, I don't know, give you a window to look through. What if someone you had in your home, your space or whatever, a guest, and you've allowed the person to occupy the space for a period of time. And if the person, after a while, just, you know what, I think I'm going to rearrange the furniture. I don't like the way the furniture's laid out around here. Matter of fact, I'm going to unplug the TV. I'm going to put my feet up. I'm going to leave dirty dishes. After a while, it's like, what? No, wait. No. You don't have that ability, that authority to do things the way you see fit. This is my home. The problem is, at least one of the problems is, we don't see God as owning this. He gets to use this from time to time as we give permission, but he doesn't own this. I own this. This is me. I'll break off God a little bit, a few bucks in the silver box. Maybe I'll go and suffer with the kids for a Sunday or two. But this is me. This is me. That's a problem. But Paul understood who he was and whose he was. And that's why he operated the reason why we have probably a super elevated view of Paul and others in Scripture is that we just see there's such a chasm between what we see and what we live. Oh man, boy, he's the man. I don't know if I would do that. Trust me, you wouldn't. See, that's the discrepancy. And let me move on. So Paul knew his time was over. And he had an assignment he wanted to keep. He wanted to go to Jerusalem before Pentecost. Pentecost, that was when the Holy Spirit came, second chapter of Acts, Pentecost, Old Testament, 50 days after. It was the time when the law was given at Sinai, after the Passover, the death angel that came through, swept through Egypt, released the people. They 50 days later, the law was given. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Paul knew his time was over. He's retracing his steps. He's going to come back and send for the ministers at Ephesus. We'll talk about that next week. And he wanted to make sure things were in order before the end, which meant that there were midterms and final exams. I hated finals. Some people, I don't know. Anybody, is there a witness? Anybody thrived on finals? Anybody? Not one. Okay, there's not a witness. I hated finals because they were final. It's like it's kind of like there's no do-over. That's why they call them finals. We need to test what you know. We need to verify that you get it. So you could go through class the whole semester and you can fake it. You could show up. You could do whatever. And it's just, I remember back in the day when Sac State was a lot smaller. I don't know if they still have the student union there, but it was student union. And I saw a lot of folks in there. They had ping pong tables in there. And it's just like, how do you have time to play ping pong? I am doing everything within me to stay on focus, to pass these courses, to then when I'm done, I gotta go clean bathrooms to make some money so I can keep going to school. And you're playing ping pong. I thought that was bizarre. I still think it's bizarre. I don't know, if those who go to Sac State, they still have ping pong tables there? It's just like, they do. Oh, go figure. What's the deal? How do you have time? Last time I checked, it's an institution of higher knowledge Well, you need to can't take this stuff too seriously. That's what we do. Fit it in when I can get it in. But I got ping pong to play. But there's final exams coming. And they're not going to ask you how's your backspin on they're not going to ask you that. So Paul is retracing his steps. He's checking in, giving final exams to those he poured into. On the first day of the week, Luke, came together to break bread. Paul spoke to the people, and because he intended to leave the next day, kept on talking until midnight. See, y'all never should complain about my labor. Never. There were many lamps in the upstairs room. I mean, Luke, being the physician he is, he's like painting a really beautiful picture. He's setting the scene for what's getting ready to go down. He kept talking until midnight. There were lamps, oils, smells, eyes getting heavy in the upstairs room where we were meeting. And seated in the window was a young man named Eutychus, happens to me, name translated fortune, go figure, who was sinking into a deep sleep. I'm looking, Deacon Nate, all right. As Paul talked on and on and on and on, he's preaching till midnight now. And when he was sound asleep, he fell to the ground from the third story. It's not funny. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's like the young man died. It's not funny. Shame on you. Paul went down, threw himself on the young man, put his arms around him. Don't be alarmed, he said. He's alive. Then he went upstairs. This is funny. Then he went upstairs again, broke bread, and ate. And after talking until daylight, this is just like crazy. The people took the young man home alive, and they were greatly comforted. Don't want to read into this, don't eisegete, or don't want to quickly gloss over, but again, this young man, whose name translated as fortunate, had the misfortune of falling. Don't fall into the trap. Well, don't fall asleep when the preacher preaches. See, you might just fall out your chair, break your neck. It's just like, seriously, I mean, that's what we're doing now. It's just goofy stuff like that. Trust me, I've heard goofy stuff like that. But here's your homework. Read 1 Kings chapter 17. 1 Kings chapter 17 and 2 Kings chapter 4. 1 Kings chapter 17, 2 Kings chapter 4, where you read Elijah and Elisha in that order, how they similarly heal. Don't try and figure it out. There may be, whatever. It's like, don't bury your nose on the backside of a tree and miss the whole forest. Oh, well, what's it laying on it and doing this? And it's like, whatever. See, that's part of the problem. We end up focusing on the miracle instead of the one who caused the miracle to happen. See, and that's why as you read the New Testament, it's like, well, healing came this way and deliverance came this way. And not so, because we're prone to, well, if A plus B equals C, I'm going to do that formula every time so I can rub the lamp a certain way so I get my wish granted. No. Focus on the miracle giver. And like I shared last week, I share it again, and I'll probably share it next week. If we can read Genesis 1:1, and we're good with that, this is nothing. This is nothing. The young man fell and died, and Paul performed a certain function, and the young man was healed. And to show that they weren't too pulsed about it, it's like, oh, he's alive. Oh, great. This is wonderful. Got a sandwich? Something to drink? I'm hungry. And oh, by the way, where did I leave off now? Okay, yeah, and I go from midnight to daylight preaching. Now I get it. I mean, it's going to be pretty tough to ignore a man that was just dead and now he's alive. It's like he's there, but that just gives context for whatever else is being told. It's like, man, I'm going to listen to this guy. If this guy can heal this man in this way, I'm going to really pay special attention. But there's no great fanfare. There's no great, oh man, boy, Paul, how did you do that? Show us that trick so we could do that trick too. None of that. None of that. Because Paul knew who he was and whose he was. I'm almost done. Yeah, I pretty much am done. Here we go. We went on ahead to the ship and sailed for Assos, where we were going to take Paul aboard. He had made his arrangement because he was going there on foot. When he met us at Assos, we took him aboard and went on to Mytilene. The next day, we set sail from there and arrived at Chios. The day after that, we crossed over to Samos, and on the following day, arrived at Miletus. Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus to avoid spending time in the province of Asia, for he was in a hurry to reach Jerusalem, if possible, by the day of Pentecost. And again, next week, we'll read Paul's passionate dissertation, teaching, giving context for his ministry and why he did what he did and why he's in such a hurry to go to Jerusalem. And again, he's carrying a bag, as you all youth would say. He's got a bag. He's got money that he has collected from the churches that he's established to bring back to Jerusalem to give to the poor Christians there. But what do we take from the text today? Paul is being led by the Holy Spirit. You know, back in the day, the AAA used to have those things, what they call triptychs. They don't do that anymore. You just got Siri, you know. But triptychs, you'd go into AAA and they'd lay out a little itinerary, and it's like, okay, you need to stop here for gas. You can go this far, and boom, 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 boom. He had a plan. He wanted to do certain things, but as you read the text, both the 19th and 20th chapters, you read the text, well, I was planning to do this, but I ended up doing this. I wanted to do this, but I ended up doing that. I want to get to Jerusalem by Pentecost. He's going to have a crowd, probably not the crowd he anticipated or the response he was hoping for, but he knew, as he said, I'm not going to see you again. This is it. This is it. If we were to approach life, and I do that more, maybe you even catch my drift even in messaging of late. I approach messaging, I approach meetings, I approach pretty much everything right now through the lens of, this might be the last time. Pastor Meeks, or something getting, nothing that I know of. I'm not going anywhere, not doing anything. But I also know time is up. How do you know time is up? Well, I know how many candles are on my birthday cake. Just saying. But let me give you a bit of encouragement or window to look through. If you've got 20 candles on your cake, or if you've got 80 candles on your cake, your time is up. Your time is up. You do know that there's an end to everything. Everything. And if we fool ourselves and we grieve the Holy Spirit, if we approach life as if this merry-go-round we call life will play on and on and on and on. We have a soul, we live eternally. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this side of eternity. That this tent, it's decaying. From dust we came, to dust we return. And that's the terminal nature of this life. So really the question on the table is, with this big crowd that's going to be there, you get Christians are probably thinking, man, it's Pentecost, and boy, it's going to be a big celebration. Jews are there for the Festival of Weeks, and it's going to be a big crowd for that. And Paul is like, man, it's going to be a great audience. I'm going to be able to knit everything together. I'm going to show my brethren. It's just like Jesus Christ is the Messiah. He was the one that was promised from Genesis to now. He's the one. And but I have to wrap things up because that's my destination. That's my point. So I'm done. So just ask yourself, where are you going? Where are you going? Well, I talked to Sister Meeks yesterday. I said, where do you want to go to dinner? Oh, Texas Roadhouse, maybe? Okay. No, I'm not talking about where you're going this afternoon. I'm talking about where you're going. Well, where I'm going is, I'm going to wrap up a few things on my job. I'm going to retire. I'm going to do a little traveling. I'm going to live a good life. That's wonderful. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Well, I'm going to Paris, and I'm going. No. Where are you going? Where are you going? Well, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have some kids. I'm going to do. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Well, I'm gonna graduate college, and then I'm gonna hope I get a degree. Hope I get a job. Hope I make a few dollars. Where are you going? Until we answer that through the lens of a life we claim is embedded in a relationship with a God that speaks things into existence, you will just exist and you will not live. Trust me on that one. Been there, done that. It'll go from paycheck to paycheck, from issue to issue, to, well, it was a good week this week. It sucks this week. Well, there's another good week. Where are you going? Where are you going? Sadly, well, 100% certain the world doesn't know where it's going. It's just existing. It's that's why folks are just like, oh my gosh, they're undies in a bunch and fingernails are nibbled down to the core. It's just like, oh, everything's just falling apart. I'll double down and I'll say what I said before and I'll say it now. You do know we live in Babylon, right? You do know we live in Babylon. This is not the promised land. It never has, and it never will be. So once we understand where we're at, who we are, whose we are, then when those fiery furnace situations come up, when the trumpet is blown, you got to bow the knee. I've already thought this through. No, I'm not doing that. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. Oh, you're going to the lion's den. There are worse things than death. I'm okay with that. Oh, what, you got a death wish now, Pastor? No, I don't have a death wish. But I know who I am. And I know whose I am. But if you don't know where you're going, then it's just like, there's a boogeyman there. There's a shadow there. There's uncertainty there. I'm guessing about this here. I'm guessing about that there. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I am good. I know who I am. I know whose I am. And I know where I'm going. I know exactly where I'm going. I invite every one of us to really focus. God, where do you want me to go? Where am I going to Jerusalem? Am I going to Ephesus? Am I going to Rome? Man, go to Rome, I might lose my head. I might be crucified upside down. I might, in the beginning, God created everything. It's not only difficult, it's impossible to fathom, to be in the place of God and to be able to, I'll say this and I'm done. I promise, praise team, I'm sorry. There is no time, wherever God is, there is no time and space. You do know that. There's no tomorrows, there are no yesterdays. The panorama of the thing we call time, we look at things linearly, and it's like, well, there's a tomorrow, there was a yesterday, and there's a next week. But with God, there are no page turns. Everything is now. So whatever I'm going through right now. So I say I have faith. I do. I have incredible faith, I believe. Sister Meeks, she's got real faith. If God could do that in that situation, why can't he do it for me now? When we understand who God is, we won't behave in ways that look, as my father would say, we live beneath our privilege. We're not beggars. We're not spiritual beggars. We're children of the King. And since I'm royalty, I'm gonna, as the old gospel hymns intone, I'm gonna put on my slippers, I'm gonna put on my robe, and I'm gonna behave like I own the place, because I do, because my Father is the King.